Welcome to another edition of Frontier Opening Bell. I'm Temple Ashaju. It's our Thursday edition of the show. Bosun Amofaya, Executive Editor here at Frontier Africa Reports, here with us on the show. Good morning, Ayode Jebo, Head of Retail Investment at Chapel Hill Denham Advisory. Thank you so much for coming through. We look at the markets. Nigeria was up, managed to be up yesterday, less than 10 basis points, though 0.09%. The BRVM Stock Exchange was positive by 84 basis points. Egyptian Stock Exchange went lower, 1.85% midweek, and of course Nairobi Stock Exchange positive by 83 basis points. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange jumped by 1.10% midweek. Let's look at the Eastern African headlines before us this morning. Kenya is a major market of interest today because again folks have been expecting fuel price to jump up to like the highest ever, but the government came in and reversed fuel price hike. New vehicle sales was also positive by some 6.25% in the first quarter of the year. KEPSA, Canada signed 3-year deal to promote bilateral trade and investment. In Uganda, the central bank maintains CBR at 7% in April 2021. Ethiopia's coffee exports rakes in some $107 million revenue in 1 month, and that's for the month of March. Tanzania Prime Minister says office is drawing up new investment plan, something to attract more foreign portfolio investments and possibly FDIs into Africa. Bosun, you got this to serve for us this morning.
I'm going to serve you coffee at Temple and IDG. I think I'll serve you coffee. I'm biased seriously on the side of agricultural commodities. You know my bias already. I think everyone on the show knows my bias. That is music to my ears, that Africa is sitting on so much agricultural commodities and resource that we're not making the best of it. 107 million US dollars. Please give that to the Central Bank of Nigeria to shore up our external reserves or our FX reserves, and Nigeria will say a big thank you. You see, and that is just from coffee exports in Ethiopia. And Ethiopia does not produce a single drop of oil. Excuse me, countries like Nigeria and others can do a whole lot more. Agriculture, food is the first. After life and the air that you breathe, food is the next thing that every human wants in the world. Whether you are holding a $10,000 phone or you're buying Tesla car for Bitcoin or Coinbase, look, we all need food and coffee and everything. So let's go there. Congratulations, Ethiopia, for making a very good stride on coffee exports. Let's also make this coffee and export it to Nigeria. I know Kenya has some coffee here from Rwanda as well. Let's make the whole continent the home of these commodities and commodities exchanges. So that's my top story. The second has to do with the Kenya fuel price hike. I think the KPRA, which is the Energy and Petroleum Pricing Agency, ran into some political issues like Nigeria ran into it a few weeks ago with the PPPRA, NNPC, and the Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and they suddenly come back because VAT is up, by the way, already. They paid a already high VAT. There are a lot of new taxes in Kenya. Then suddenly you're going to say, hold on a second, you're increasing petrol and diesel prices. Hold on a second, you're looking for social unrest. So I guess they learned from Nigeria and they quickly come back and say, no, we're going to keep this petrol fuel prices at March 2021 level. And I think that was doused very quickly yesterday evening. So the agency for the government says, no, we're keeping hold. I love the deal with between Kenya and Canada on investment and bilateral trade. As we speak, we have the French Foreign Minister for Trade and Attractiveness in Nigeria signing deals with BUA and what have you. That is good news. The French are back in Nigeria. They're looking at Nigeria as the main investment destination. So they send their top guy from President Macron and also putting together a major investment summit for Nigeria next month. And I think we should not miss this opportunity for Nigeria to make a good show and do whatever we need to do in-house to make ourselves that romantic investment bride that the money wants. Then Uganda holding interest rate. Look, Bloomberg survey months early this year shows that almost all the SSA economies will hold interest rates for now and wait until the middle of the year to begin to think of how previous monetary policy has helped, and then they can begin to make some adjustments. And very quickly, today is the IMF Sub-Saharan Africa Economic Outlook Report, which will be released by 12 o'clock Nigerian time, 2 p.m. East African time, 7 a.m. East Standard Time in the US. the IMF Director for Africa will be speaking and releasing that report. I think that will give us something to chew on also tomorrow. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for these analysis, Bosin. Let's move on now to the Western African headlines. We've got the NGX debut trade, 25 naira 59 kobo, which was positive by some 59 basis points. I think that's after trades on some 4.13 million units of shares. That's at the NASD OTC or NASD exchange. Actually, you've got NGX as well, releasing regulation, new regulation for supervision priorities. That's for this calendar year. You have BUA chairman Rabiu appointed as chairman of France Nigeria Investment Club. BUA and Axen signed progress statements for 200,000 barrels per day of refinery of oil, 200,000 barrels of oil refinery in Akwa Ibom State. That's in the south part of Nigeria. Ghana's March inflation unchanged at 10.3% as food index eased to 10.8%. Let me bring these headlines before you, Ayodeji, to help us understand what they mean.
Okay, thanks. I think I should also start with the breaking news or the latest
inflation.
So Nigeria has released its March 2021 inflation figures, and as expected, that it increased significantly. So we saw March 2021 inflation print at 18.17%, and that's about 1.56 year on year. Month on month, and we could see the food inflation that has been the major push also move up to on a year-on-year basis to 22.95%, which is very, very significant. If we look at the core inflation, which has always also been on the increase since last month. We saw that one also print at 12.67%. But if we do further analysis into that number, you will discover that this is the highest since January 2017, and based on expectation, we're expecting that it may actually even touch 19, which will be the highest since maybe 2009, because it was when if you recall, late 2016 when we had the FX crisis, inflation rate was significantly very high, which touched around the highest then was 18.72, which we're already approaching now. So it's when we look for looking at what's the impact or the implication to us on the street, it means that you need to continue to be very active thinking of how can you bridge this gap. So we're not saying what invest in things that would be above. There are hardly any safe investment that would be above inflation rate. Yes, the good news is that Treasury bills have been moving up. Yesterday, we had the 1 year T-bills close up at 9%, and we still expect that at the next auction may also move to about 10%. So that is also bridging that negative return that we've been suffering. So I believe that investors need to be active. Don't leave your funds just in your savings account when inflation rate is at 18.17%. Now moving to the NGX, the listing of the NGX Nigeria Stock Exchange group shares on the NASD, which is the OTC exchange yesterday. Yes, it's a welcome development, and now it's liquidity. So the shares was listed at 25 naira. So trading has started. So we'll begin to see different valuations, and people will also be anticipating to see their results. So in terms of, yes, I've not done maybe detailed analysis to show whether it's overvalued or undervalued now, but it's always good most times once you don't have clarity about the valuation of a particular company. The best option is always to watch how the trade, so that those that have that value, the price discovery would come up, because we expect yesterday traded about 4.5 million shares traded. So as we see that progress, people will be able to, there will be price discovery, and by the time we also see their let's say their first quarter or next quarter results, that will also give a sign on how the company is growing. But by and large, for those that have been holding those shares and have not been able to sell or create liquidity from it, this is an opportunity, and it's also, I would say, it's also very positive for the NASD because a lot of investors were not aware of this OTC platform. So now they will be forced to also open. There's a different CSS account that you have to open for NASD for you to trade those shares, which is also with the CSCS. So you don't use your NSD CSCS they can't buy into that share. So investors it will create that awareness, which I feel is also positive. And I'm so excited for that collaboration with NASD because they're doing a lot of very fantastic work by providing price discovery and liquidity for OTC shares.
I know that. Before I go to Bosin, could you also give us a possible understanding of how long the NGRs will continue to trade on the NASD OTC before it migrates to the exchange itself?
Yes, I think that's going to be based on the decision. But the main thing is, I believe that the NSC should, or the NGX should allow the shares to trade, because what investors need is the ability to buy and sell, which is also available on that platform. Yes. And there needs to be some form of awareness. So they're using tools, one stone to kill two birds. Like, we are creating awareness for the NASD platform, where there are a lot of stocks, and sometimes their performance of some of their stocks even outweigh when you have on the main exchange. So I know over time that's going to be like the management or the board decision until that is said. But I feel that where investors are not losing anything by having it still on the NASD platform, because it also trades actively and on a daily basis. Then I think I forgot about the new agreement by BUA for the 200,000 barrels per day refinery capacity. I feel that that's also positive, and it's interesting that we have begun to see interest within that area, because when you look at our import bill, and you also look at what government is also struggling in terms of subsidy. Watson spoke earlier about in Kenya that they were unable to, the government had to pay, someone would have to pay for that difference. So if they are not increasing the price, it means the government will have to pay because of the pensions. And with inflation at 18.7%, and you look at the impact on purchasing power. So removing subsidy at this time would also be a very tough call for the government when a lot of the citizenry are also finding it difficult to live above their means. So it's I see this as positive, and it will create jobs, because what we have been doing in the past is we have been funding jobs, because they take our crude oil, we refine and we import. So we have been funding jobs outside the country, which is also reflecting in terms of our insecurity. So I think this is a positive, and there's this trend that we're already seeing. Any business where we see Dangote, we see BUA also following that path, maybe also learning from some of the mistakes that Dangote would have made, and trying to see how they can do better. But it is a trend. I'm just saying it's a trend that we've seen over time, that there's any business that you see Dangote, just expect that within the next 1, 2, or 3 years, you'd also see BUA follow that path.
That's some kind of a correlation analysis there.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Bosin, you got the table.
I guess I understand what I was talking about. Look, I want to see more of competition, business Nigerian names. Look, let's have a whole lot more, and let competition begin to drive them to the critical areas of where our problems are. I want to see similar competition in other sectors, not just cement, not just sugar, not just refinery. These are some of the big areas we can create jobs in Nigeria, but we need to see it also happen in other parts of industrial manufacturing that uses other raw materials locally. I want us to see massive production in other areas as well, whether it is in palm oil, or it is in coffee or tea and what have you, so that we can begin to build the value chain. That is on one side. Look at inflation, for example, and this is very interesting. Yesterday, Ghana released its March inflation. Headline inflation was just 10.3%. Food inflation declined to 10 0.8%. Nigeria is due 22%. And that tells you the difference between just a 45 minutes or 1 hour or 2 hour flights between Lagos and Accra. And that tells you a whole lot of things need to be done here. If Ghana is doing food inflation of 10.8 and Nigeria is doing 22, hold on a second, we are burning. The fire is right under our hood and we need to do something about it very, very quickly. And the NGX story, I'm just enthused. I am personally privileged and honored to be alive to see this transformation and historic time in which one exchange is listed on the other one. And if you ask me 20, 30 years ago, I'll tell you, no, it's not going to happen, not in our lifetime. But here we are today, and it's happening and right at our doorstep. And I think this is kudos to everyone involved, from the Nigerian Stock Exchange to the NGRs to SEC to everybody involved in the chain to making this happen.
Bosun, you're always enthused about stock exchanges, and there's so much more in the South African space now to talk about. The Botswana Stock Exchange story is one that you will be explaining to us again. Let's now check in with the headlines in the Southern African markets, where you have South Africa's retail trade sales climbing by some 2.3% year on year in February. You have Botswana Stock Exchange now wants increased liquidity, reversal of some delisting trend that has been playing out in the market. Bank of Namibia keeps repo rates unchanged at 3.75%. Namibia's new vehicle sales also rise by 12.3% in the first quarter of 2021. You have Zimbabwe, Russian Rosatom MOU on nuclear power generation. Everywhere across Africa, some reforms, some kind of rebalancing taking place there. Bosun, over to you again.
I think the Namibia interest rate, I'm sure you would most likely speak to that. I would want to look at the fact that South Africa, and I saw this story with the Kenya story, which is about new vehicle sales up by 6.26% for Kenya, and Namibia now is reporting about new vehicle sales up about 12.3%. I think as soon as folks were getting towards the new year, this new optimism, there is a vaccine, we have not seen so much to use the phrase of exponential, as Ali always put it, increase in the number of fatalities in virus in Africa. Folks are coming out and they are spending. So when you see new car sales rising in numbers, that tells you that that economy is beginning to move. In other words, people are beginning to spend not just on survival items or articles like tea, coffee, bread, sugar, and other, but also they're spending on durable goods. So you put vehicles as part of the durable goods. So when these sales of durable goods start coming up, then you know that something, the economy is beginning to rev up very much. Botswana Stock Exchange is one exchange I'm also proud of, as all the exchanges in Africa, but they are focusing on a whole lot of things. They're reporting all the time. They want to increase liquidity. They want to reverse delisting that is happening on the exchanges. They're looking for how to bring in more companies, just the way the Kenyan Nairobi Securities Exchange is also doing.
Thank you very much, Bosun. Ayodeji, over to you.
Okay, thanks. So on the news on the rise in the car sales for Namibia, I think it also just buttresses the optimism in the economy, because based on projection, it was expected that it will be low, but the amount, the units that was able to, the record was around 971 units, which was like the highest in about 2 or 3 years. So that's just further buttresses that, which Boasin also mentioned earlier, that based on the vaccination, there's expectation that economic activity would improve, and it would also just help shape in terms of, even for foreign investors, for that are looking at the trend in that country, to see that things are picking up, and in terms of the capacity of people to be able to afford those things. And I'm sure that though I'm not privy to their inflation numbers, but I feel that there may be some form of stability in that country, which buttresses that fact that they are able to, because when you look at cars, you may want to count it as non very essential. It's based on when you're able to afford it, and for people to be able to mark a bit of funds for that, shows that they are able to attend to so many other things.
All right, then thank you so much for that. Let's close now with the Northern African markets before us, where Egypt's agric exports rose by 10% year-on-year to 2.2 million tons in the first quarter. Egypt has got the Suez Canal Economic Zone, raising $600 million 10-year loan from 6 banks. Real estate company Inatia gets 1.1 billion Egyptian pounds loan from Bank Misr. AMMC OK's Maroc Telecom share buybacks. Ayodeji, let's have you speak to some of these headlines before Bosin concludes with us.
Okay.
You want to look at the exports. I know you prefer import and export stories.
Okay, no problem. Let me speak on that. And I would always like to come back home to look at how we can learn from them. So we can see how Egypt agric exports up by 10% on a year-on-year basis, and we come back and look at our country. We'll see beyond. By the time you take out export of crude oil, you really see that we're not doing well within our agric space. So it's if not even beyond just going to learn from the developed countries or going to other continents, we can also borrow a leaf from our fellow African and see how they have been able to model and grow their agric sector. We know there are a lot of abundant commodities that we can export, or we can even add value. And for me, I'm always after us adding value, because we need to create these jobs so that we can be able to reduce the insecurity issues we're facing. So it's for Nigeria, we need to be deliberate, be more deliberate. I know government is trying their best, but we need to be more deliberate and see how we want there can be collaboration with more private sector, both domestic and foreign private sector, how they can get more comfort to add more value to a lot of those resources across the agricultural value chain.
Thank you very much for those contributions. The backstory to this export story again is the fact that they now export more of citrus, and the lifting the 25-year ban by Japan on importation of foods and fruits from Egypt has now been lifted. So that's also boosted that. I think for Nigeria, the question is around even feeding ourselves. How much have we been able to achieve in that regard? Bosun, over to you.
Yes, we can keep talking about the agric story forever, and agric and exports. There are two twin things here. You need to feed yourself locally, so you reduce your costs of importation. Then you push the exports out so that you can also get revenue. It doesn't take you don't need to have a degree or PhD in mathematics to be able to put the numbers together. So it's not rocket science. So it's very simple. Look at the products that need to be done abroad. You push that up. You get strong earnings, just the way Kenya is doing and a few others. Then you look at what you need to eat locally. So, and you produce that also abundantly. So if food inflation comes down locally, folks who are into manufacturing or exports also get currency, foreign currency in. It's a win-win situation. But looking at the Suez Canal Economic Zone, $600 million from 6 local banks over a 10-year period loan. Egypt is continuing to position itself as an economic reform republic. And we haven't seen much here. The government is trying to drive a whole lot of things, but there's still much more still needs to be done. Can a special economic zone in Nigeria raise $600 million US from 6 local banks? What is the environment? What are the rules of the engagement? What permissions do you need? Can you get the right environment? Do you have electricity? What about the roads and logistics to the special economic zone? So $600 million is a whole lot of money. But for them to pick it up like this, because again, the Suez Canal is working, then you have an economic zone built just next to it. These guys are smart, and the pharaohs are smart. I think there's still a whole lot there from the pyramids to today that they just have a smart way of doing things. And they positioning themselves as the horn of the continent and where you come to first when you are hitting the continent. And there's no better way to position yourself than that.
I think it's also important to note that now that tourism sector is heavily challenged in that country, there's still much liquidity playing out. Look at the loans being given to by Bank Misere to a retail company. Look at the Suez Canal raising all of these funds all around from local companies there and banks there. Thank you so much.
Just get busy. Just get busy. Look, if the tourism, hospitality is just take the money quickly into economic zone or into agriculture very quickly before the tourism hotels and others start coming back and demanding. Now they're not looking for loans, by the way. Exactly. They're not literally taking anything much. So take that fund immediately and move it to another sector, raise that up quickly. When things are down, the tide is down, move into another one. Ayodeji, I hope I'm speaking your mind there.
Yes, you are making a very valid point. That flexibility is needed, and it's economic. Most sectors will not perform this. They won't go the same direction. So you need to be able to have that flexibility to be able to move from those that are currently being challenged. But the downside is that sometimes when is the period when they are challenged, they are unable to pay back or create. You are able to get a refund for you to be able to also move, because you would have advanced those money. When you look at it in the forms of the banking space, you've advanced those money. It's only when you have new funds and when you are doing your allocation that you can easily change the direction to where you feel is more efficient based on economic reality.
That's why the government is there. That's why the government is there. The government is the manager. So the government can find its way around it, by the way.
Clearly, they have a lot of economists at work in Egypt. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your analysis and your insight being provided on the show this morning. I appreciate them. Ayodeji Ebo, our head of retail investments at Chapel Hill Denham Limited. Thanks a great deal. Both Nomofaye, I appreciate your editorial considerations and judgments on the show this morning. This has been Frontier Opening Bell. I'm Temple Ashaji. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.